Blog Talk Radio.
President recognizes Mr. Adams of Massachusetts.
Objects of the most stupendous magnitude. Measures which will affect the lives of millions, born and unborn, are now before us. We must expect a great expense of blood to obtain them. But we must always remember that a free constitution of civil government cannot be purchased at too dear a rate, as there is nothing on this side of Jerusalem of greater importance to mankind. My worthy colleague from Pennsylvania has spoken with great ingenuity and eloquence. He has given you a grim prognostication of our national future, but where he foresees apocalypse, I see hope. I see a new nation ready to take its place in the world. Not an empire, but a republic. And a republic of laws, not men. Gentlemen, we are in the very midst of revolution. The most complete, unexpected, and remarkable of any in the history of the world. How few of the human race have ever had an opportunity of choosing a system of government for themselves and their children. I am not without apprehensions, gentlemen. But the end we have in sight is more than worth all the means. I believe, sirs, that the hour has come. My judgment approves this measure, and my whole heart is in it. All that I have, all that I am, and all that I hope in this life, I am now ready to stake upon it. While I live, let me have a country. A free country.
Y'all been asking where the Trump supporters are, right? Why we been so quiet? Where all the Trumpies at, right? That's what I've been hearing. We've been here the whole time. We don't need a safe space. We don't burn down our cities. We don't riot when things don't go our way. And if we lose a fair one, then we accept defeat with humility.
All right, everybody. Joseph Gibson here, podcasting here, understanding the times in which we live, restoring our republic. I guess the Trump arrest there has been pushed back here. They moved up. I know we reported it was going to be on Tuesday or Wednesday, and apparently now they've got nothing. I just don't see how they can even arrest the guy. Based upon what? There's no law. I don't even think it's a misdemeanor. But I've seen that happen firsthand, even in my life. They can do whatever they want, especially when people don't do anything about it. And even with Trump, with all his supporters, I mean, they're locking down the city. I mean, they've got every Secret Service, every FBI undercover. They got every informant reporting. Everybody's watching. Their ears to the ground. I mean, this is really North Korea. I mean, what kind of country do we live in? Are we really, truly free? I don't think so. I think this is the police state, and this is the new world order, and it's just we're there. We're just about there. I mean, how fake is everyone out there today? How fake are we? Do we have any realness about us at all? Or we just watch life around us just dwindle away, and it's crazy. Machete's wielding suspect shot dead after taking woman hostage in Miami. Miami there. Spring break going crazy down there, huh? Insane. Bulgaria reports unprecedented surge of illegal migration. Former Goldman Sachs analyst. 35% of mankind will not survive World War III. You know, nuclear plant admits it accidentally leaked 400,000 gallons of radioactive water. You can't make this stuff up. Can't make this stuff up. World War III, huh? That's what we're marching towards, slowly but surely. And yet we got people here in the country where we're talking about remonstrances. We're talking about we're going to file paperwork and we're going to stand in front of the legislator and state our grievances. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Hang on, I got to pay my cell phone bill. You know, come on. Ain't nothing going to happen. Nobody's going to change nothing. Because we can't get 10 people to meet for coffee at McDonald's in the morning. You know, you get a bunch of people crazy, you go protest in New York City, if that's what they're planning on doing. It's just insane. It's insane. George Soros, master plan. Let's play that real quick. Anybody wants to call in 657-383-0616, press 1, and I will connect you. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't want your voice. Let's see if we can get this going here. See if we can get this playing here for you. Might not get a connection on this here, so sorry here, fellas. We're live radio, you can't beat it. Nope, I don't think it's going to play for me. Nope, can't get it going. All right, well, I guess that story ain't going to get played for me here tonight. It was playing earlier. Why was it? What's going on here? Oh, I see what's going on here. Okay, hang on. Sorry about that there, everybody. Well,
by challenging Trump because they think the only way to take out Trump is to get DeSantis to weaken him so much in the primaries that even if Trump wins in the primaries, he's beaten up and vulnerable by the time of the general election. And they want to take out DeSantis at the same time. This was how they tricked and deceived DeSantis, because after DeSantis went rogue on the pandemic in terms of deep state priorities, they decided they could no longer trust him. And even though he'd been a deep state recruited candidate going back to Guantanamo and Harvard and Yale and prep school and the fraternities tied to Skull and Bones, he proved that his working class roots and his political pragmatism could go populist at key junctures. So they no longer trusted him. So they thought, this is genius. At a minimum, we get to take out DeSantis. Maybe we take out DeSantis and Trump, but the linchpin to all of it is a bogus criminal indictment. And all they have left is the Stormy Daniels case.
Expert on the history of this legally, Robert Barnes, joining us. Robert, great to have you on with us. I've been watching a lot of your work since you were on a few weeks ago. You've been killing it, and so congratulations. You've always been successful for many years, but you've really been nailing it. I see you everywhere with massive following increasing, which is a good thing. We need more smart people to be more prominent. So it's great to have you here with us. Let's tackle into this. Then obviously it ties into Ukraine. It ties into the banks. It ties into Sam Harris and the Democrats saying, yeah, we're for censorship. Big deal. Get used to it. You don't deserve to have a voice. And the incredible hearings in the last few weeks in Congress with the admitted weaponization and surveillance and censorship. And for me, it's not a First Amendment issue. That's a side issue. It's an important issue. The organized nature of intelligence agencies with government, with think tanks, with big tech, with dinosaur media, working to surveil, censor, and then deplatform and debank people. To me, that's racketeering, but you've got the legal brain. I want to get your finer point on that. So, Robert, great to have you with us.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the bottom line is the deep state isn't going to indict Trump in order to get DeSantis to challenge Trump. That's the story that's not being fully told or has been fully vetted yet, but will start to come out over. And DeSantis' statement today is revelatory of that. The fact he's not going to use his Florida governor's powers to even protest or contest such an indictment and arrest. He's going to pretend that it's inconsequential, that it's a sideshow, that it's a circus. All of this was intended to take out. Soros leaked this, by the way, a couple of months ago. The goal was to take out both DeSantis and Trump by tricking DeSantis into challenging Trump. But the pitch that was made to DeSantis that got him to reverse, he was going to be on the ticket just in the summer of 2022, that got him to reverse was, hey, Trump's going to be taken out by criminal indictments. That's going to pave a path for you to run. Don't align with Trump because that's a dead path. Challenge Trump because Trump's going to be DOA. We're going to guarantee it because he's going to get indicted. And they launched 4 different criminal investigations against him. They did Mar-a-Lago classified documents, Georgia election issues, January 6th, and New York. And New York was dead because career prosecutors looked at the case in New York and said there's no case here. And so they said, don't worry, we got Mar-a-Lago, we got January 6th, we got Georgia. But then, of course, Mar-a-Lago blew up on them by the public backlash. Not only that, Mar-a-Lago blew up on him again when white hats in the FBI disclosed how Biden had even more classified documents by any estimation. Biden's the only one to commit a real crime in this context. So that made that case die on the vine. No, but they couldn't get anybody to flip in either Georgia or the D.C. cases to give a credible case against Trump. And the grand jury person is a complete nut job who went on CNN and even no less than Anderson Cooper admitted she was a nut job. So that killed those cases. So they went back to the Soros-elected DA out of New York and said, buddy, you got to revive that dead case. So he removed the career prosecutors from the case, put on these heavily political prosecutors on the case. I know some of the career prosecutors who said no to the case, and they said there's no basis for it. It's outside the statute of limitations. It's a made-up, manufactured criminal allegation. But they have to go forward with it because it's the only way they can trick DeSantis into making political suicide by challenging Trump. Because they think the only way to take out Trump is to get DeSantis to weaken him so much in the primaries that even if Trump wins in the primaries, he's beaten up and vulnerable by the time of the general election. And they want to take out DeSantis at the same time. This was how they tricked and deceived DeSantis, because after DeSantis went rogue on the pandemic in terms of deep state priorities, they decided they could no longer trust him. And even though he'd been a deep state recruited candidate going back to Guantanamo and Harvard and Yale and prep school and the fraternities tied to Skull and Bones, he proved that his working class roots and his political pragmatism could go populist at key junctures. So they no longer trusted him. So they thought, this is genius. At a minimum, we get to take out DeSantis. Maybe we take out DeSantis and Trump, but the linchpin to all of it is a bogus criminal indictment. And all they have left is the Stormy Daniels case. But as Clinton, we lived through it. When a desperate political prosecutor resorts to just charging sex crimes, people tend to rally to the victim of that accusation rather than rally to the prosecutor's side, as Bill Clinton proved in 1998. By reducing Bill Clinton's crimes to just a sex crime, he actually rebounded in political popularity. Democrats did great in the 98 midterm elections, to everybody's shock and surprise. And so I think the empire is going to strike back tomorrow with an indictment on Donald Trump, but it will be the beginning of the return of the Jedi and the resurrection of Trump's career. And maybe DeSantis will get wise and realize he needs to not take the bait and challenge Trump in the first place, because he would only be doing the deep state's bidding.
And the numbers show that this is going to supercharge Trump. But it again shows the clear desperation of these people. And every criminal case they've tried to launch against Trump, right at the magic moment, then FBI whistleblowers release info basically showing it's a fraud or showing things Democrats have done 1,000 times worse. But look, Bill Clinton was not really popular. A lot of people. He was a bad guy. But they still went after him on sex crimes because they didn't want to go after him on other issues, because Republicans were involved in a lot of the same issues. But with Trump, this is a grown woman. There's not allegations that he was beating him or attacking him or raping him like Bill Clinton likes to do. But what about the statute of limitations? If this happened 7 years ago, and right when the statutes were almost up 2 years ago, the last group, as you pointed out, New York declined, the feds declined, then how are they doing this outside the statute of limitations?
They're just gambling that the grand jury will indict a ham sandwich, particularly in Manhattan, so they know they won't pay attention and put a block and stop to the case. They're gambling that a New York state court judge, and there's reasons to think they're right, will play ball with the prosecution. And so the theory they're going to use is the idea that Trump was both unavailable to be indicted and outside the state, and they need to prove both. They need to prove they couldn't find him for purposes of indictment and that he was unavailable. There are some bad cases out there in New York case law that could allow this, but it's not what the law is supposed to be. So what they're really gambling on is that they'll get a political enough judge that will let Trump not get to dismiss the indictment, drag out the case. And again, I think their real goal isn't even to get a conviction in this case. Their real goal is to trick DeSantis into challenging Trump, thinking that the New York indictment will be enough to derail Trump.
And isn't it also meant to have the first guy jump off the bridge, the first lemming of the Soros DA, to encourage other investigations that have stalled because they're not a case to go ahead and file their indictments and try to swarm Trump?
Oh yeah, no doubt about this. I mean, they're desperate to take out Trump, but the primary strategy they have is to get DeSantis to challenge him. The backup strategy is to just weaponize the legal system everywhere. I mean, they did this to him his whole term. I mean, he was subject to several bogus criminal investigations. Remember, anytime some people were being critical of him related to Ukraine. Well, anytime he tried to put a halt to aid to Ukraine or sending money to Ukraine or sending arms to Ukraine, they impeached him. I mean, that was what the first impeachment was all about.
They neutered him. They neutered him.
Completely. And even before that, they were scared of him reaching a rapprochement with Putin and Russia that would create an allied relationship with Russia to separate them from China. And we just saw this past week how Biden's strategy has backfired as Xi is hanging out in Moscow with Putin. And how do they do it? A bogus criminal investigation.
Well, Robert, let's talk about that when we come back.
All right. Well, there you have it. Yeah, I mean, the weaponize, that was key words right there. Weaponize the system. And that's the key right there. Weaponize the system, right? I mean, what do you think? If they weaponize the system, which they've done it already at the lower levels with the poor communities and the middle class, now they're going to do it with the politicians and the rich people. They're going to weaponize the system and pick and target who they want to go after. Amazing. Well, let me do my famous call here. I got a couple questions here for this politician here, and then we'll open up the phone lines. Anybody wants to call in, press 1-657-383-0616, and join in on the conversation and share your opinion or thoughts or whatever you want to talk about. It's up to you. But let's see here. Let's call. Let's see if you can get a hold of these people over here, San Francisco here. I got a couple questions for them.
Senator Wiener's office is Lorenzo.
Yes, Lorenzo, how you doing? This is, I've just got a question. I saw a report on the news, I think it was yesterday or the day before, with the...
Hey, really quick, can I get a name and a zip code from where you're calling from?
Well, I'm traveling right now. I'm in the lower part of California right now, but I'm originally from San Francisco. So, but my question is about the San Francisco Police Department, if you don't mind. My name is Joe. I'm calling about they allowed they unvetted even illegal immigrants become police officers without doing thorough background checks. Is that true?
I'm not really sure. That's a San Francisco Police Department issue, and that's much more handled by the county supervisors.
County supervisors would handle that, so that wouldn't be something that the senator's office would handle, correct?
Yeah, that's up to the county supervisors. It's that's a county agency, so.
Oh, well, they said call my local representative. So what issue? So I don't waste your time in the future. What issues do you guys really handle oversight? What's the senator's job? Just curious.
Yeah, so we work in the Sacramento government. So we're within the California State Senate. So this is a legislative office. We don't really handle any sort of law enforcement with regard to, county sheriffs or county agencies, police departments or city agencies. What we do is really help, constituents communicate with state agencies such as Employment Development Department, such as CalVet, such as, a bunch of other state agencies that provide services and legislative.
So the police department isn't considered a state agency that provides services to the people?
No, because L.A. Police Department is different than San Francisco Police Department. It's different than, San Mateo Police Department. It's all different city agencies.
But doesn't the you're in the legislative branch, don't you legislate and make policy or law that has requirements for people to become police officers in the city and state in California?
Yeah, I mean, on a state level, but, if San Francisco has passed legislation on the city level or county level about allowing, undocumented persons to become police officials, then that's the city itself.
Well, okay, so they would have their own authority and jurisdiction to handle that. Well, would you have a phone number of somebody who handles that thing? 'Cause I'm just curious as to why they would allow that to happen, I mean, it concerns me.
I mean, you can do your own searching, I'm not going to really, if you're not a San Francisco resident currently, then, you don't have a representative within San Francisco County, so there's nobody really to pass it to.
Well, I'm a resident, I'm a citizen, and I was just curious because I would like to call up there because it's something that could spread across the rest of the state and the country, as a matter of fact, and so I would like to contact
the legislature. You feel that way.
You said as a legislator you don't handle that, so obviously that's a county. You're saying the county supervisors would handle that and make policy for the police departments around the state. So I would like to speak to a county supervisor and find out why they're allowing this to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, sounds good. You can Google San Francisco County supervisors if you wish. I
don't have the internet. I don't have access to the internet right now. So I was just wondering. That's why I got your number and figured I'd call my representative's office. But then again, you say you don't represent those issues. So do you represent the people in the district? Your district, you represent, correct?
Yeah. So you want to give me an address, and I could look up your voting profile and see how I can provide assistance directing you?
No, I don't want to look up any voting profiles. I just wanted a county supervisor's phone number.
I can't direct you to any county supervisor if you're not in San Francisco right now.
That's what I'm saying. So you can't direct me to a county supervisor in San Francisco right now. That's what you're saying? Are you
currently living in San Francisco?
Where I am or what I'm doing right now is irrelevant. I'm telling you, I'm a citizen.
No,
of
it's
that.
very relevant.
No, it's not technically. I'm a registered voter, and
where are you registered?
I'm a registered American citizen. That's all that should matter right now. I mean, you're a part of the union, right? California. Unfortunately,
the union of the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm part of the United States.
Yeah, you're a part of the United States of America, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, then I'm a U.S. citizen, so I was, so that should be very important. My point is what I'm trying to make here is that, as I can see it, we're allowing undocumented immigrants to become police officers, and it seems like the American citizens have no rights anymore. That all the undocumented people have all the rights. They're getting all the perks, and now they've got cities that are going to be handing out $2,000 to homeless people across the country, and you're one of the cities, as a matter of fact, that's got online to do that. Can you explain that?
In terms of helping homeless people get off the streets?
Yeah. With no questions asked, you're going to hand out cash money. Can you explain that?
Because people are currently unhoused and are going through traumatic situations in which the state is needing to help get people assistance.
Where is that in the state constitution or federal constitution? Where does it say that that's the job of the government?
The state is supposed to provide services to its citizens.
It says that in the Constitution?
I mean, that's what the government is for, to provide services on a social level.
Really? Oh,
what is the government for?
Well, if you work for the government and you're asking me, I'm
asking you because you're the one that's asking me these questions.
One thing the government is really for is to secure our borders, and you guys aren't doing that.
Okay.
You don't think that's the job of the government?
I mean, listen, that is the job of the government. How we define securing borders is probably going to be different, but I respect your opinion.
Okay, well, I guess it would matter to the voters. It's all up to the voters and what they say, right? I mean,
yeah,
bottom line.
Thankfully, the voters trusted us as the representatives of San Francisco.
Yeah, but well, again, we have a difference of opinion. But again, I mean, you really didn't answer it too much. You answered one question. You said, but All right, so you're not going to give me a county supervisor phone number.
I can't give you a county supervisor if you're not represented in the city of San Francisco. If you want to give me an address of your residence in San Francisco, I can direct you to your local county supervisor.
Well, how about this then? What if I'm homeless and I don't have an address?
Oh, then where are you currently residing as a homeless citizen?
Well, that was my real question. What I was getting to is if they're homeless, if someone's homeless and you guys are going to give this cash money to the homeless people and they don't have an address and have a bank account, how are you going to decipher who's homeless and who's not? Or is this one of those government handout programs that just becomes a debacle again?
Do you believe that people are just claiming that they're homeless when they're not?
I don't know.
Well,
I can't speak for other people.
If you don't have any research, I don't necessarily know why you would believe that.
Well, common sense would say that there's bad people out there who would probably try to claim and get money, right?
Well, sure, I don't really want to live in that world that you believe.
So you don't think there's bad people out there that would try to claim to collect a free
I mean, for decades, people have been talking about welfare queens to homeless people who aren't homeless claiming benefits and such, and really the statistics that show it and research, really that doesn't exist. So, if you have any statistics to show me that exists, please, but if you're going to provide some anecdotal evidence that you don't really even have because you don't have that, then I don't know what to say.
Well, I don't have the exact numbers or facts off the top of my head, but I promise you I will get them because I'd be curious as to why you have fraud investigators then if the fraud doesn't exist.
I mean, listen, if that happens on a one-off, that happens on a one-off, but it's not. I don't think it's a systemic-wide issue.
Okay, well then, if it's not, then there should be no reason to have so many fraud investigators within the Department of Social Services and the state government, or even with the IRS, since we live in a country that doesn't perpetrate fraud. I mean, but I'll get those numbers for you. What's your first name, if you don't mind?
Please do.
I call back to the office. Yeah. What's your first name?
Yeah, my name's Lorenzo.
Lorenzo. All right, Lorenzo. All right, well, I'll get those for you in a couple of weeks, and I'll get back to you on that, because that's very interesting.
Sounds good. I look forward to you doing that research.
All right. Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day. God bless.
All right. Jerk. All right. Well, boy, oh boy, they just combative, aren't they? Right off the bat, they don't want to answer none of your questions, but he's got all the answers, doesn't he? Boy, oh boy. So there's no fraud. They don't commit fraud. But as it is true, folks, they want to give $2,000 across the country to the homeless people out there. No questions asked, just hand it out to them. How is that going to be? How is that going to go over? What are they going to do? Just some guy from the government's going to stand on the corner and whip out a check? Well, you can't whip out a checkbook because you can't cash a check if you're homeless because you don't have an address. And you got to have an address to have a driver ID to go to the bank and open up a checking account. So, they got those check cashing places, but I guess you still got to have an ID. So, how is that going to work? They're going to set up Uncle Sam in a uniform on a street corner, and you just with a big bucket of cash, or they're going to have Federal Reserve with a helicopter like Bernanke was and drop $100 bills, or how is that going to work? I don't know. I don't know. He says there's no fraud. So, but. He stated there was no fraud. There's no fraud in at least in California or in this world. And I didn't have no numbers to give him, so he didn't want to go into the debate on that. Very interesting conversation there with the senator's office there that doesn't represent anything that I had to offer or ask about. You guys are something else. Oh boy. Tuesday. That's what we'll do. We'll start doing this on Tuesdays. I mean, Tuesday. Call your local politician and let them not answer any of your questions. That's going to be the new show, I think. What do you think? Where's Sarge at? Sarge, you out there, Sarge? Where are all these smart people at that have all these that know everything on my podcast show? Where are you guys at? I sure would like to have some of you on the line there questioning these people with the common law thing and all that. I wasn't going to get into that with them. That would go nowhere. But let's see here. Well, I got another one here. We'll try another one here. Well, I want to know about this program there. That we got another one here. We got one more number here I can call here. Let's see. Oh, he wants my name and number right off the bat. He wants all my information. You're not getting nothing, pal. You don't know who I am. All right, let's call this office here. I forgot who his office belongs to. Let's go back up. Let's see here.
Senator Brian Dowley's office.
Yes, how you doing? I just got the phone to Senator Wiener's office there, the Sacramento area there. And I was asking a question about the program that they're going to be handing out the $1,000 or $2,000 to the homeless people across the country, and our city's one of them. I was just wondering, how is that program going to work? Like, how are you going to prevent fraud and stuff like that? And his office commented saying that there's no such thing as fraud, that there is no fraud with welfare, and people that claim that they're on food stamps or claim that they're homeless, there is no fraud. So, but I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that.
Well, we haven't been given an official proposal, so we're not sure how exactly it would work, but I can tell you, given the history of the state, like with EDD, for example, there will easily be rampant fraud. But as of right now, we're not sure of how that program would work, so we're not really able to speak on specifics. I think it's a safe bet that there will be.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Do you have, by chance, off the top of your head, how much fraud every year, EBT? Because I know there is fraud. You're right. That's why we have fraud investigators and stuff. And he said there was zero fraud. But I was just saying, off the top of your head, you know what the numbers are on the fraud each year, and at least in the state, our state?
Not specifically, but I know it was tens upon tens of millions of dollars, if not more.
Wow, interesting. Huh.
And
all right,
probably more than that.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't doubt it. But, okay, well, I appreciate your time and answering my question.
Of course. Have a good day.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay, all right. Well, I just wanted to confirm that. Tens and tens. I'm going to get the numbers for that jerk. Give him a call next week. I got to find out what number, where did she say he was, or he or she? I didn't even know what the hell that was. It sounded like he or she. What office was he from? I got to write down this number. I got to check out this number. Because I wrote down this number and I forgot where I got it from. That wasn't San Francisco. That was Sacramento, was it? I don't know. It could be oh, boy. I tell you. Boy, they don't agree with each other. They look at the mess we're in this country. It's just crazy. It's insane. Insanity. That's what it is. Totally insane. But that's what Tuesday night, that's what we're going to do from now on. That's what I'm going to dedicate the show to. Calling up your local politician. So if you guys got questions that you want to ask, you just email me or message me in the chat or whatnot, and I'll ask the question to these criminals, you know, and because I know they're criminals, and that's just what they are. And I want to say hello to the Indian show out there, the Indian show there, the Chief, what's his name there? Chief Coward. If you're doing your rain dance out there or casting your spell on me or whatever, the American Indian podcast show on Blog Talk Radio there, I want to say hello to that jerk. And he is a jerk. And with your racist comments and your disgusting hating the white people, and you're going to go to war and do this or whatever you're going to do, and you know, and the white man's a loser and this and that. And I just want to say hello to you, Chiefy, because I know you're probably listening. You are a Chief Coward, and I know you would never have the courage enough to call into my podcast show. So I want to say thanks for taking my call there the other day, and of course hanging up on me as soon as I made a valid point and made you look like a fool. So that's the Indians there, the Indian show. Boy, I tell you, these guys, I heard Indians, when they drink, they go crazy because it's like when they drink alcohol, they can't handle their alcohol. Is that why they smoke the peace pipe? I don't know. I'm just curious. But anyway, so Chiefy there, Chief, well, I got to think of a nickname for him. Chief Rain Dance, maybe. I don't know. I'll think of a nickname for him. But anyway, he does a podcast show. They're on usually late at night, and they can't stand me. They can't stand me. So I want to say hello to them because I know they're listening. I just know it. All right. So, well, anybody got any thoughts or comments? Now's the time to do it. Because if not here, I'm going to go into my documentary. Maybe I'm going to go into documentary mode here because I got to gather my thoughts here. And I did have I don't know where my remonstrance team is. They were supposed to come on Tuesdays. This is the second Tuesday in a row now that they haven't shown up. So if you remember correctly, we had the big remonstrance talk there about the remonstrance and what that is, the remonstrance, and how we, that's the proper way of going and bringing your grievances toward the local government there. So, but again, nothing. Where's Joe at? Joe, where are you at, Joe? If I don't go on Tuesday, I get phone calls and emails. Why weren't you on Tuesday? And then when I go on a Tuesday, I keep my show time. These guys don't come on. So, I mean, come on, man. What's the deal here? I'm trying to find this documentary I had. All right, the NATO deploys 300,000 soldiers to the border here, and then the phone number 657-383-0616. I know I got a few people out there that want to talk. So, but let me play this quick one here on NATO, and after the ad here, and then we'll take phone calls, I guess. All right.
Still coming to today's program. We got COVID news. We got news about the banking collapse. And the very long plan to institute central bank digital currencies. We also have mainstream media actually pointing out the really disgusting anti-white rhetoric being used by politicians and media to get elected these days. We'll get into all of that and more. Your phone calls, of course. We got people calling in about most everybody talking about Trump and Stormy Daniels. If you want to call in, give us a call, 1-877-789-2539. There's still a few lines open. You can get in, and we'll go to your phone calls this segment. We'll just finish up first talking about what's happening with China and Russia. Let me just try to give you an idea of exactly what's happening here. It's just, it's all crazy. It's all completely insane. Okay, you've got Ukrainian soldiers, basically they're admitting that Russia is winning. Ukraine soldiers admit we're just getting killed as they defend Bakhmut city, which has been a very, very long and brutal contest over that city that Russia is eventually going to succeed in taking. Just how many Ukrainians have to die before that happens is the question. At the same time, you've got NATO is racing to arm Russian borders, where they are sending 300,000 soldiers to Russian borders basically as an intimidation tactic, getting ready to invade Russia, despite the fact that Ukraine is not in NATO. So we would be doing this as an offensive maneuver. It has nothing to do with the defensive agreements in NATO, which actually matters. This stuff actually matters, right? World War I and II were both started because of defensive agreements between, in one case, Belgium and the UK, and in another case, Poland and, you could say Serbia and Russia, and then Belgium and the UK that brought the UK into it and made it a real world war rather than just a European land war between the German Empire and the Austro-Hungarian Empire and the Russian Empire and the French. It's all defensive agreements, but there are actual defensive agreements. It was actually a defensive agreement that said, the UK said, if Belgium, if your territorial integrity is compromised, we will defend you. Then it was compromised, then they went in to defend them. That's an agreement that you make, and you can say as people did at the time, all of this over a piece of paper, like really because you made an agreement 50 years ago about defense, now you're going to send the whole world into war over a little excursion when in Germany they weren't even attacking Belgium, they were just using Belgium to go through Belgium to get to France. But at least it was an actual defense agreement. And at least there had been defense guarantees to Poland by the UK and others for when the Nazis and Soviets invaded that country. They're like, well, now the defense clause is activated. With Ukraine, we have no defense agreement with them. There is no treaty that we signed or agreement that they're in NATO, and so we have to treat them as if they're a NATO member. So this is all aggressive and offensive on behalf of NATO as we put hundreds of thousands of soldiers on the border of Russia and act like they're not going to do anything, and if they do, they're the bad guys. I'm not going to fall for it. I hope you don't either. You also have the United States, EU agree to start talks on critical minerals amid trade tensions. So again, they're talking about really expanding their mineral acquisition in order to fund the energy transformation, the Great Reset transformation. It's all totally absurd. And actually, we'll get to that story a little bit later. But just finishing up here. So you've got Ukraine is losing, and they've lost 3 armies already. Russia is continuing to march forward in a steady and persistent fashion. You have Vladimir Putin being charged with war crimes by the ICC and then going and doing a open-air walk-around in the city of Mariupol, which, I don't know if you noticed, there was no fake air raid sirens to make him seem brave. It was actually kind of a badass thing to do rather than the highly orchestrated play acting that Joe Biden did when he went and visited Ukraine. And you've got China and Russia meeting in Moscow to solidify and expand their friendship and cooperation. The headlines are things like this: persistently move forward with new prospect of friendship, cooperation, and joint development of China and Russia. Contacts at the highest levels play an important role in and are of enduring strategic importance. Talk about cooperating in defense as well as industry, infrastructure, and everything else as they seek to oppose and dismantle the U.S. hegemony, which has done such great things for the world so far. But on top of that, you have the newly opened diplomatic relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran for the first time in a while.
All right, let me pause that right there real quick because, we have to look at how big the world's militaries are actually in size, and people have to understand the size of the militaries that we're talking about here. The world military size, for instance, as of 2019, the world, and all the armies around the world put together equal 27,671,000. Okay, that's total. Now, you go by country. North Korea has 1,469,000 in their army. Russia has 1,454,000. The United States has 1,388,000 in their military altogether. Okay, so Afghanistan has active military 250,000, reserves 75,000. Paramilitary 170,000, total 495,000. That was as of 2000. That's obviously before the collapse. Albania has 8,000, very small. Algeria 130,000. So let's go down here now about. Let's see. Let's go by down here. Numbers here and what we got here. As of 2022, China had the largest armed forces in the world, obviously, by active duty military personnel with about 2 million active soldiers. India, the United States, North Korea, and Russia rounded off the top 5. So that's the top 5 right there, largest militaries in the world. Okay. Who's the strongest military in the world? Well, Russia is number 1 right now, according to the strength in military. Okay. The United States is ranked number 2. All right, that's what they say. That's the strongest army. That is army. Okay, I don't know if they're going by military or army right now. See, it confused me because the military army is strong, different here. Let's see here. Let's go by the U.S. military. All right, the United States military now they say is ranked number 1 in this chart here. Ranked number 1 out of 145 out of countries considered for the annual GFP review. The nation holds, go by the scores and everything. I'm not even going to get into that because nobody's going to understand what I'm talking about. Who has the world number 1 army? Again, now they got Russia again on this chart. So Russia and the United States, we're separated like by a point differential system here. China is very, very close at number 3, and India is strong 4. And then you got North Korea at number 5. So North Korea, but you got to wonder. See, everyone in North Korea, if you're not in the army or military, what do you do? Because you're slaves over there, I mean, you become a peasant farmer, and that's about it. I mean, they don't have any real factories over there, But let's go in detail here. Let's see if we can go into a little bit of detail here. If I can get these up here. I remember I pulled these up before, these numbers. We can go by. Okay, let's see here. We'll go by this one. No, get off there. All right, well, let's see. Let's go to number 9. Even despite a 20% drop in such force, it remains among the top 10 most formidable armed forces in the world. It's the United Kingdom. They have some of the most powerful munitions on the planet. The HMS Queen Elizabeth aircraft carrier with a 4.5-acre flight deck was commissioned by the Royal Navy in 2020 and will be capable of transporting 40 F-35B Joint Strike Fighters across the world. Italy is ranked number 8. The Italian military ranks are high due to the country's 2 operational aircraft carriers. The addition of 2 aircraft carriers to Italy's already sizable submarine and attack helicopter fleets aided the country's accession to new heights. So I guess they learned their lesson from World War II, Italy there. France, number 7. Despite its size, France's military is well-trained, professional, capable of deploying enormous quantities of force. France is a prominent military actor with the Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier and frequent military deployments in Africa to assist governments in battle and terrorism. Number 6, South Korea. To deal with such eventualities, South Korea has a high number of submarines, attack helicopters, and active people. This country also boasts a variety of tanks and the world's 6th biggest air force. Total population of the country is 51,835,000. While the available labor force is 25 million. So half of their country is available for labor. Japan, it is believed it has the 4th largest submarine fleet in the world. Japan's Navy also has 4 aircraft carriers. However, they are only equipped with helicopters. Japan also has the world's 4th largest fleet of attack helicopters after only China, Russia, and the United States. India has an estimated I already told you, 1.5 million active military troops. They have a long-standing territorial dispute with Pakistan over Kashmir. According to Global Firepower, the country boasts the world's most tanks, which has 4,292. Towed artillery also 4,060, and a fighter aircraft of 538. This year, India's military budget is estimated to be over $61 billion. That is amazing, huh? $61 billion. That's India. India, folks. They have 4,292 tanks. And now you think about World War II, how many tanks were out. That's peanuts compared to World War II, you know. But again, these tanks are different than what they had in World War II. These aren't these big Panzer tanks. Where these tanks got sophisticated radar equipment now, and amazing what these tanks have. China, in terms of overall manpower, it's the world's largest military. It also has the world's 2nd largest tank and submarine fleets, after only Russia and the United States. China's military modernized innovatives have also made tremendous progress in recent years. Ballistic missiles and 5th-generation aircraft are now being developed, which might transform the face of armed combat in the near future. And, of course, we get to number 2 and 1, which is Russia and the United States. According to Global Firepower statistics, Russia has the most tanks in the world, 1,950, more than double the number of tanks owned by the United States. On land, about 1 million active people are in command of 27,038 armored vehicles, 6,083 self-propelled artillery groups, and 3,860 rocket projectors. Russia's defense budget is estimated to be $48 billion. The U.S. poses a fleet of 10 aircraft carriers, which is the most significant conventional military advantage. Furthermore, the U.S. has a large and well-trained human force, the most aircraft in the world, cutting-edge technology such as the Navy's new railgun, and, of course, the world's largest nuclear arsenal. A country's army is undoubtedly one of the most important resources. India has one of the biggest armies in the world, according to the size, recruits, and active men. Traditional definitions of military power base it on factors like serving personnel, artillery power, missile arsenal, and technological advancement. The candidates must be aware that there are a number of publications and indices that are continually updated regarding military power of various nations. The most pertinent ones are the Global Firepower Index, Power Index Score, and publications from organizations like SIPRI. So those are your numbers right there. Top 10 armies, highest total numbers of military personnel. You got Vietnam, 10 million. North Korea, 7 million. Now these are just personnel. You know, I'm not talking about trained on the ground, boots on the ground troops. As far as personnel goes, the United States only has 2 million. Brazil, 2 million. But these are people now. Brazil. I'm going to tell you Brazil. These are people walking around with AK-47s. Okay, they're not walking around with sophisticated military equipment that that we have or like China has. So, if World War III was to break out, these players and these countries I just named off to you would be main players at stake in the world. Now, who would we align ourselves with? The United States is pretty isolated right now. I mean, we've got Great Britain, of course. We got France. We know that. We got Italy. But who else? Australia, Canada, of course. Those are our allies. But you got China, Russia, Iran. What if India teams up with China? And then you got North Korea over there. You got a pretty big. You think we're going to be able to take them on? In a ground conflict. So the only way, and now what if they came over here and landed on our land and attacked us, which would be very, very difficult. They'd have to come in through Canada or Mexico. And with the way our borders are unsecure right now, and these globalists and what they're trying to do is destroy the United States, and I believe that's what their long intentions are in the long run, and that's why the borders are so unsecure. And you've got that Marxist communist scumbag that I was just talking to from that political office there that was laughing about the borders. That's what they are, and they got the devil inside them, and they don't even know it. But those are your New World Order idiots out there that think being a slave is good, and taking the mark of the beast or whatever have you in the future is a good thing. And these are the people that are your enemies out there. They're living right beside you. These are your neighbors. These are the people you work for, or they work for you. And we have to shun them out. There's not time for re-education. Re-education days are over. You can't go out there and re-educate these people. There's too much misinformation out there. If they're on the wrong side of the boat from the beginning, then chances are they're not your friend, and they're not going to come over to your side in the end. So this is a battle for who is righteous, who's going to stand up for what's right, and really God. So if you want to go over to the evil dark side and fight for them, and be a transvestite or LGBTQ and queer and abortion lover, and baby killer and vaccine lover, then you go right ahead. You're going to burn in hell one day. I assure you of that. And the world you will probably most likely conquer. When the Lord comes back, though, when God does come back, he'll set things straight. So I just want to put that. I'm just answering a couple of emails here. That's why I spouted off like that for a minute. So anybody here wants to check in with me, 657-383-0616. Press number 1, and I'll get you on here. So I'm going to get back to my story over here, and then I've got my documentary I might play. So I don't know where my regulars are here tonight. 657-383-06. Taking calls now. So you guys want to press 1, get in here now. Back to my NATO story here, and wait for the callers.
A long time. With now the Saudi king has invited the Iranian president to Riyadh. Saudi Arabia's King Salman bin Abdulaziz has invited Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi to Riyadh, an Iranian official said on Sunday. Again, drawing those two countries even closer together. Totally humiliating for the American hegemonic power structure in the Middle East. Vladimir Putin's written an article for the People's Daily newspaper in Russia called Russia and China, a Future-Bound Partnership. You also have Silva de Lula from Brazil. He's visiting China to boost the China-Brazil ties, despite discrediting by West. So Brazil also moving towards the BRICS, nation hegemony rather than the American one. And you have this: Syria's Assad arrives in United Arab Emirates, an official visit. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad arrived in the United Arab Emirates on Sunday for an official visit, accompanied by his wife Asma, at a time when more Arab states have signaled openness to easing the isolation of Damascus. So again, it's sort of interesting timing, right? 20 years to the day since America invaded Iraq in order to overthrow the dictator Saddam Hussein, who, by the way, we put into office. Oopsies. Oopsie daisy, we did that. You've got Assad meeting with the UAE and the president of Iran being invited to Saudi Arabia, and China having orchestrated all of this, meeting with Russia, who, of course, had been defending Assad for the last decade or so as he has come under concerted assault by the deep state operatives that also overthrew the duly elected government in Ukraine to set the stage for that whole conflict. So this really is a collapse of the American hegemony. Where this goes from here is kind of anybody's guess, except you have to take into account the fact that the people that run America and have gotten us into this trouble, primarily the banking combines that pull the strings behind the curtain, are also the ones that have systematically exported our manufacturing and so much of our industrial power to China over the last several decades. So you can't help but think that they're not exactly against this. But we also are seeing the American government make major changes in their recruitment and in things like opening up Alaska for oil drilling that do signal that they are gearing up for a major war conflict with Russia or China or both in the very near future. So they may be kicking off World War III as all part of a designed and orchestrated depopulation movement to forcibly reset the world into a new world order from which we will all suffer. All right, so we got phone calls. I'll go directly to phone calls beginning of the next segment and for the entirety of next segment. Stay tuned. In the meantime, do go to InfoWarsStore.com. Check out the...
All right, everybody. Okay. We'll go over here to this one here, the January 6th, 1 year later.
This is more than an hour-long speech. Thousands of protesters streamed from that rally site and walked this route, down Pennsylvania Avenue, directly to the U.S. Capitol grounds. Several people told us that day they expected Vice President Pence to overturn the 2020 election results.
What needs to happen today is Vice President Pence needs to not open the 7 state electors' envelopes for the states that I mentioned, set them aside, and send it all back to those state legislatures.
Well, we got to stop this steal from happening because if we don't, nobody's ever going to vote again. There's not going to be any integrity in our voting system.
As the crowd grows, clashes between Trump supporters and Capitol police officers, clearly outnumbered, intensified.
We're not going to take it anymore. This is our country.
Outside, the Capitol's West Front became a battleground. Inside, the joint session of Congress to certify election results was underway. The traditionally ceremonial process is upended by Republicans, led by Representative Paul Gosar of Arizona and Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, challenging Trump's loss, sending lawmakers to their separate chambers to debate.
What does it say to the nearly half the country that believes this election was rigged if we vote not even to consider the claims of illegality and fraud in this election?
Meanwhile, around 2 p.m., the east side barricades are breached. Here's what I saw from outside the Capitol.
Half an hour ago, vehicle barriers that had been set up about 100 yards away or so from the Capitol were first breached by a group of protesters. Capitol Hill police retreated a little bit more. Then hundreds more protesters started to stream up this walkway in front of the Capitol. It is a remarkable scene.
On the West Front, the mob tore down scaffolding, battled their way through the last line of police defense, and broke into the Capitol building itself. NewsHour congressional correspondent Lisa Desjardins was inside the building reporting live as it happened.
Judy, our protesters have now broken into the U.S. Capitol.
And we'll stand in recess until the call of the chair.
The Senate was called into recess and evacuated. The mob of Trump supporters roamed the historic hall, damaging property and searching for lawmakers. Security footage captured the moment Capitol Police Officer Eugene Goodman shuttled Republican Senator Mitt Romney of Utah to safety before running ahead to divert the approaching mob away from the Senate chamber. Rioters came within 100 feet of Vice President Mike Pence, whose security detail took him to safety from an office near the Senate. While this was happening, at 2:24 p.m., Trump tweeted from the White House, criticizing Pence for not having, quote, the courage to do what should have been done. Remarkably, the House was still in session when rioters attempted to break into that chamber. A police officer shot Ashley Babbitt, an Air Force veteran from California and QAnon conspiracy theorist, as she and a crowd tried to break into the rear of the chamber where some lawmakers were still sheltering. According to an analysis from the New York Times, rioters breached the Capitol in at least 8 different places. They entered the Rotunda, Statuary Hall, and the Senate chamber. Some broke into the offices of lawmakers, including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Law enforcement arrived to clear a hallway above Statuary Hall, where NewsHour correspondent Lisa Desjardins was sheltered.
But I do hear shouting as police seem to one by one be taking down the protesters, telling them to get on the ground, trying to control the situation.
Democratic Senator Patty Murray from Washington State spoke with Judy Woodruff about hiding in her office with her husband that day.
And we heard somebody saying, we saw them, they're in one of these rooms. And they were pounding on our door and trying to open it. And my husband sat with his foot against the door, praying that it would not break in.
Meanwhile, outside, as the crowds grew, so did the violence. Officers on site continued to call for backup throughout the day. And while some reinforcements did arrive from local and state and federal agencies, it took National Guard units about 3 hours to respond to the Capitol. Rioters, outnumbering law enforcement by more than 50 to 1, attacked, dragged, and beat police officers, crushing them underfoot and spraying them with chemicals.
They began to beat me with their fists and with what felt like hard metal objects.
In testimony to Congress, former D.C. Metro Police Officer Michael Fanone recounted being pulled into a crowd of protesters.
I was electrocuted again and again and again with a taser.
In total, nearly 150 police officers were injured on the day. During the attack, those closest to President Trump privately urged him to take action and tell his supporters to stop the assault. House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy spoke with him from the besieged Capitol. His son, Donald Trump Jr., and several Fox hosts texted White House contacts to tell Trump to address the crowd. Hours passed before President Trump did anything to address the insurrection. Just after 4 p.m., he released a video repeating unfounded claims about the election results.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace.
Around this time, police began to secure the Capitol. Flashbangs and tear gas were used to clear the Western Terrace, the site of presidential inauguration. Police declared the Capitol complex secure around 8 p.m.
To those who wreaked havoc in our Capitol today, you did not win.
In the early hours of the next day, January 7th, Congress finished certifying the election results. Some Senate Republicans withdrew their initial objections.
The chair declares the joint session dissolved.
A Capitol police officer, Brian Sicknick, suffered 2 strokes and died that evening. In the days and months following the attack, 4 police officers who were on duty died by suicide. More than 720 people have been arrested and charged with crimes linked to January 6th. The physical destruction of that day has since been cleaned up, but questions of how to repair the deeper damage to our democracy remain. For the PBS NewsHour in Washington, I'm Amna Nawaz.
Yep, January 6th, yep. He's right. You did not win that day. You're right, Pence. You're right. And look at our country today. Look at it today. Just look at the phone call I had earlier with someone who's supposed to be a representative of the people. Dismissive, egotistical, rude, arrogant, refuses to answer any questions, any inquiries, will not help or assist, talks about their policy like it's their policy and they'll do what they want, talks about the border like it's a joke. That's your representatives. You're right, Pence. They did not win. That's our country today. Trump was right. The election was stolen. It's a fraud. It's clear as cut as day that Biden did not receive that many votes. There's no way. Impossible. Possible. Common sense. Just look at the rallies. Biden shows up for a rally in Pennsylvania. 13 people show up with cameras. They're part of the press. Trump shows up, 50,000 people. Come on. Do the math. Do the numbers. So this is the country that you like? This is what you like? This is what you're happy with? We just go out, business as usual? We got Biden now in there, president. I mean, I can understand if he was even trying to do a good job. Then you could say, oh, then you can make an excuse for it. The guy doesn't even know where he's at. He's not coherent. Anything that is contrary to the Constitution, therefore, they keep saying that we're democracy. We're not a democracy. We're a republic. Democracy is two wolves and a sheep voting almost for dinner. But this is your country. This is what it's about now. This is what it is. And this is what we have. Now, what are we going to do to fix it or change things? Does anyone have any suggestions? Does anyone want to speak? Does anyone want to have a suggestion? What can we do to change things? We've been on this podcast now. Remember we had the Republic on here all that time, same thing over and over. You know, and then we had the remonstrance people, the Philo remonstrance. Remember that there? You know, and we got all these answers, all these suggestions, but no solutions, really. I'll take the first caller here. We just put their hand up there quickly. That has the courage there to speak. Go ahead there, caller.
Now, Joe, you know if they were going to put a guy in there who's going to do a good job for the country, they would never have done it in the first place. You have to understand, Joe Biden was never intended to do a good job for the country. Joe Biden, for his personal reasons, was in there to continue his grift, and the people around him who placed him there and who are within his inner circle see him as a nice little puppet to implement this game to fundamentally transform the United States away from a constitutional republic, so they can make it just another North American outpost on the empire of global hegemony. That's it.
Yeah.
That's why they had to get rid of Trump. He was in the way of all of that. That's why they had to steal it.
Yeah.
Who was going to win? I mean, look at this case in New York. Now, you mentioned it earlier, but you know, I've got to say to myself, this is the first, I guess you could call it a gain of function prosecution. Now, they have transmogrified what at best is a misdemeanor with a statute of limitations that is now expired. That is a bookkeeping record with regard to election accounting. You put an expenditure like Stormy Daniels in the legal column, and so this guy's going to try to say that that's a misdemeanor offense. But in order to bookend it and mutate it into a felony, now you've got to bootstrap it to a federal crime of which you have almost no chance of proving. I mean, it's just the most amazing thing I've ever seen against the former president of the United States. Yeah. It is almost beggars belief until you realize what a threat to these people who want to fundamentally transform our republic are. Then you understand they've got to stop him at all costs, no matter what sort of lawfare they have to wage. I'm surprised they haven't assassinated him yet.
I got to agree with you there. I am absolutely surprised 100% that they have not taken a shot at him, at least even. I mean, like I was watching a documentary earlier with Kim Jong, the North Korea guy with his half brother, how they assassinated him at an airport. 2 girls ran up behind him and rubbed poison on his face and everything. And you know, I'm like, you know, and then you think with Donald Trump, look what they did to Kennedy. Look what they did. I mean, you know, look, I know times have changed and now since then, but every president that has stood in the way of these New World Order thugs, they've taken out. And I'm surprised Trump has not had his shot yet.
And let's look at the guy who's actually doing this. Is the same guy, this Alvin Bragg slug. This is the same guy that tried to prosecute that bodega owner for clearly, beyond any shadow of a doubt, lawfully defending his life against a thug determined to beat him up or maybe worse. And he actually tried to prosecute him for murder. This is a guy who takes that guy who beat up those Jews in New York or Brooklyn they died and beat him so severely they had to be hospitalized. He's the same guy who downgraded that to a misdemeanor. He's the same guy who let carjackers and liquor store hold up guys downgrades their felonies, the misdemeanors. This is the same guy. This is Alvin Bragg.
Yeah. Hey, Sarge, did you hear the conversation I had earlier with the senator's office?
Yeah, I heard it. I'm placing a sprayer under my sink, so I was listening to it while I was replacing.
Unbelievable. Yeah, and had no question. And this program about handing out thousands of dollars to homeless people. This guy was just unbelievable. What do you think of that? How about that exposing one
to you? Wait a minute. At least he spoke to you so you can get some insight into the way these people reason.
Yeah.
Most of us would have dismissed it long before that, but I guess he felt maybe this guy's got a bit of a conscience. Maybe he felt he needs to justify this kind of insanity by trying to convince you that your eyes aren't seeing what you're seeing. It's gaslighting.
Yeah. There's no fraud.
You're not really seeing what you're seeing. What you're really seeing is just the government, because government exists to help people. No, that isn't the first function of government. I mean, government may help.
That was the other thing. Yeah. He said government.
It may or may not
help
people. But it may or may not help people. If it does, that's fine and dandy. And I suppose that could be an objective. But the first and primary duty of any government, the way, at least in our understanding, is to secure it and protect it from all enemies, foreign and domestic, secure its borders, observe the rule of law, and maintain a civil society. Everything else is subsidiary to that overall overarching goal. And this administration, frankly, is the worst ever in the history of the United States at securing that objective.
He had no answer for me when I said I never saw that in the Constitution. What do you mean? What do you mean help people? Provide programs. Provide programs for people. That's what he said. Provide programs for people.
Maybe you ought to look up the general purpose of any government, then look up the specific purpose of our government as expressed in the preamble, to provide for the common defense and to create a more perfect union. Establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote when you say general welfare, general means all encompassing, general, not specific. That means any welfare is supposed to be available to any citizen.
Yeah.
Whatever welfare benefits accrue are the same ones every citizen gets generally. The general welfare, not the specific welfare.
It just shocks me every time I call these people. That's why I said every Tuesday I think I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to just start calling politicians because it just shocks me every time I have a conversation with them, because they come out of the side of their mouth with stuff that I just can't believe it. And no wonder why we have the people in there that we do. Because if they're out there campaigning on this stuff and people are voting for them, then we are surely lost. You know? And press 1. Anybody wants to join the conversation? Press 1, please. 657-383-0616. Press 1. You have to press 1 on your phone if you want to jump in the conversation here. Go ahead there, Sarge. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right, because, man, I'm telling you, there's so much to say. I can't say it all in your show tonight. I mean, and I know you can't either. This government and this country and its Constitution is under attack by so many vectors that it's impossible to list them all. I mean, I never, I used to think a lot of things I used to think were conspiracies have now been realized. They're not conspiracies anymore. They're not conspiracy theories anymore. They're happening. They're happening right in front of our eyes.
Sarge, you got somebody else who wants to jump in here that just put their hand up. So let's bring them on. Go ahead there, private caller.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Sarge. John Doe.
All right, Mr. Doe, John Doe. How are you?
What's up,
Doe? How Doe you doing?
Well, I'm sure you heard it for yourself tonight.
Hey, just what we've heard just tonight doesn't really express how you're doing. But I wanted to point out something that I think a lot of times we don't realize, and your calls help, us see that. and that is that these congressmen and senators, apparently the aides are being directed by somebody, whoever these staffers and aides are that's answering the phone, to data mine you, your information, and who you are and where you're from and all that, so that way they can decide what, not only who you are, but what your philosophy and ideology is, so they can do a Lois Lerner target you, or like they did Giuliani and Roger Stone and Donald Trump. See, they use the system, say, oh, you got to give me your name and your address or your zip code and whatnot. They find out who you are, and then they listen to you. I'm like, well, wait, when we go to vote, I don't know if it works the same way in every, district and precinct. When you go to vote, you show up and you sign in just to be on the roll. But they don't get to go into the booth with you to determine what your ideological or political leanings are. But when you call your congressman or senator, if you start telling them all about the issues that you want to deal with and you're seeking redress of grievance, they want your name and your number and all that information. And then that way they know who to target. Say, if they don't lean to you, and this works in both the conservative and the progressive liberal, or whatever the progressive people are. It's like everybody's so concerned about making sure that they know where the person's coming from and where they live and whatnot, so that way they can target them.
Yep.
So how are we supposed to work through our differences and stuff when these people, you call in, get a redress of grievance, and the aides and staffers could answer the phone, want to data mine you and use you as a target, and then if you don't, they just want to hang up on you and not help process your redress of grievance.
Yeah, I know. I don't think into that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say another thing in response to that, in the sense that the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution, unreasonable search. For them to ask your name and your location information and then want to know what your political position are on the issue is an unreasonable search. It's just the same thing whenever they show up at your house or whatnot for whatever, like a police officer or something, and Sarge will be able to coincide or jump in on this, is they ask you, well, do you have a weapon at the house, or even, whatever, something to that effect. And you say that's a constitutional issue. Oh, well, yeah, we believe in constitutional carry. No, it's a constitutional issue in the fact that it's none of your business and that you've just violated the Fourth Amendment of unreasonable search.
Well, is
none
that
of your
true?
business.
Yeah, that's interesting. You bring that up. Is that true? Does that violate the Fourth Amendment? I mean, they're elected representative. I don't have to identify myself when I call them and inquire about a I'm not sure about that, actually. That's a good question, actually.
Well, I don't know if that violates the Fourth Amendment, but you would ask yourself, is that a proper question for a representative to ask before that representative supplies information? That, I think, is the issue. I mean, why should you have to give a curriculum vitae to a representative when you ask him questions about his very job and policies that he wishes to enact? He ought to be able to give you an answer that doesn't require any background check.
Yeah, I know.
And plus, if they do ask you that question and you say, hey, that's a Fourth Amendment issue, and they want to press the issue, you say, okay, well, you give me your name and your address, and you answer for me the questions I want to know about you. What's your Social Security number? Or do you have a gun in your house and stuff? They're like, well, wait, no. You don't want to. You don't have to ask me. You don't get the right to ask me that question. I'm here. Blah blah blah. You get what I'm trying to say?
I suppose that the real, if there was a Bill of Rights issue, I suppose it'd be the Fifth Amendment issue, meaning you have a right against self-incrimination, meaning that you might inadvertently or deliberately give to this representative some tool by which they can use to either persecute you or prosecute you, perhaps. But I don't see a Fourth Amendment issue, because that has to do with the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. It's really searching things for things and evidence and stuff. But incrimination might be something that could ensue from you getting information to a public official, and then he runs a background check on you.
But even searching to know what your property is improper search. That's unreasonable. They have no probable cause to ask you that question.
Well, I think they can ask, but I think the real question is, why aren't they willing to offer information about what they're doing? That's more concerning to me. Well, why should a representative be trying to be secretive about what his policies are and who they're supposed to affect and how they anticipate they're going to better the situations of the general polity? I think that's the question.
But it's all of it. It's both. It's not one or the other. You're picking favorites as one's more important than the other. No, they're both equally important. That's just like when you go to your dentist or a doctor and they start asking you, well, what's your mental condition, or have you seen a mental whatever, or do you have weapons in your house? It's the same thing. They're using this as a go-around to get around the Fourth Amendment unreasonable search in order to identify what they say is a possible potential problem. It's like we have all these psychiatrists and I don't know, sociologists, I don't know what all these different people, psychiatrists and
John Doe, I got another caller here.
They're going after this mental thing. But the mental thing, who's setting the criteria? The elitists that get elected into office are being manipulated by the mover and shaker elitists in order to set the criteria for the Bar Association as well as for the Medical Association. And you and I don't get to make sure our will is mutually and reciprocally included in all of the rules, laws, processes, and procedures to uphold the spirit, hope, and promise of the Declaration of Independence, that we're all equitable, independent, self-governing free people. No, so they get their will into law. Therefore, they're showing favoritism and making you a legislative slave. Now they're exercising undue influence, coercion, exploitation, and duress on you. It's a psychological mind scam.
Hey, John Doe, let me bring on another caller here. 323, go ahead, you're on.
Hello, Joe, and the other callers. How you guys doing? This is Joe.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Joe. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing fine. Joe, do you mind if I do a little bit of self-promotion for about 3 minutes?
No, go right ahead.
Okay. As I was telling Joe a couple of days ago, I was offered a position to be the host of the conservative network here on Blog Talk Radio. Don't know if I'm going to accept it. The thing is that I want a female co-host to anchor it with me. I only have two people in mind. One probably can't do it. The other one may not be able to do it. If I can't get her, and the reason why I want a female co-host is because of the interaction between male and female, then Sarge, I would like for you to be my co-host if I accept that position. Would you consider accepting? You are.
Look, what network is this show on?
Excuse me, I didn't hear you.
Look, I tell you what, it's not like I'd be opposed to it, but I don't want to, spend a lot of time on Joe's show here talking about it. But if I get away, get in touch with you,
That's why I'm only
going
to spend a minute. Okay, and thanks, Joe, for letting me do it. The thing is that I know if you wanted a show, you would have done it all by yourself years ago. The advantage is if I do get the hosting position, you do not have to be the co-host all the time I'm the host. When you come on, you will be the automatic co-host with the privileges of a co-host, including muting anybody who comes in to be a wise ass. So I thought I'd offer that to you. And
now, when's this show going to air now? What days is this going to air, this show?
I haven't accepted the position yet. And if I do, then I'll let everybody know. And then they can come and get entertained and informed only the way that I do it. And I'd be glad if you guys show up. And of course, Sarge, when he shows up, again, it's not a position where you have to come when I'm there. Because if you wanted a show, you would have done it. And regularity can be a pain in the ass, right, Joe?
Yeah.
To show up all the time. He can, right? So
you're here.
When you show up,
you're here.
you be the co-host, and you have the power of muting. So I just thanks Joe for letting me do that. Because I don't know Sarge's number, but I'll get a hold of him if I accept that position. So thank you. So I just wanted to say that. Yeah. So let John Doe go back to the constitutional information.
Hey, wait, Joe, you didn't catch the beginning of tonight's podcast. I had a senator's office on the show, a couple of them actually, and kind of put it to him a couple of good hardcore questions, and it was a good exchange.
Did. All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Gotta go back and listen to it.
I'm glad.
I'll tell you what, why don't you come on, log in to Blog Talk, come into the show. I'll get a private box with you and send you my email address.
Who, me? You talking to me?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. Joe, why don't you give Sarge my number, all right? Because it's right there on your switchboard. And Sarge, you can contact me.
All right, I can send Sarge a private.
Joe.
Yeah, hang on a second here.
Joe Gibson, put Sarge and Montana Joe in the green room and let them exchange their information.
Oh yeah, that's an idea. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'll put you in a private room. I'll put you in a private
room. Yeah,
that's
what I meant. Log in the Blog Talk and just come on the chat board.
Oh no, the chat won't be private though. But he's going to put us in the green room.
Right, I'm going to put you in the green room right now I'm going to be in there with you for about 1 minute. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll give you guys a minute. Go ahead. All right, John Doe, go ahead. Continue on. John Doe, you there?
Also, I wanted to bring up, whenever we're talking about all of these rights and stuff, I think most of the time, and I don't know how everybody else feels, but in most the circles of people I know, it seems like the majority of us Americans don't really have critical thinking skills or reasoning or logic skills in order to know what the true interpretation of the Constitution is. So therefore, when you call your congressman or senator and you get these kind of representatives, whoever answers the phone, the staffer or aide or whatnot, they don't give a flying flip about whether you're being represented correctly or not. They'll use the word, we represent, or, give me your zip code and make sure that you're in the right, district of representation. Well, to move on to the other point about the January 6th, it's like all of these people that were upset and went to the Capitol Hill, they have a right to make sure that their vote counts legitimately and accurately. And whenever we have congressmen and senators that continue to lie out their teeth and misrepresent the facts and the evidence and information, and then when they call their congressmen and senators trying to get redress of grievance and get clarity for integrity on the vote, make sure that there's integrity throughout the whole chain of custody for voting, they get ignored and disenfranchised because the people who are answering the phone don't understand the Constitution well enough to, know that they're responsible to the people who are calling to make sure that all of us' will is mutually and reciprocally included. So therefore, each one of us, we own the self-governing of ourselves. That's our intellectual property. So when Congress passes a law or does something and we call in for redress and they deny us our due process rights of good faith bargaining, good faith negotiating, mutuality of agreement, freedom of contract, freedom of conscience, freedom of association, they've just committed extrinsic fraud against us and they've destroyed the legal effect of your private property. That's a felony. But nobody's holding them accountable because most of us don't know how to talk to them that way. And so when they destroy the legal effect of your private property and they commit extrinsic fraud, they've also committed fraudulent conveyance. They've now conveyed your property, the self-governing of you, to themselves to use it as a power bargaining chip in dictating rules, laws, and processes on the masses. That's also undue influence, and they've just stripped you, nullified you of your ownership rights in your due process, your self-governing property. Do you follow me with that?
Yeah, I follow you.
It's convoluted for you to follow.
I follow you, but the thing is what do you mean they commit a felony? Let me explain. Let me read this to you, 14th Amendment dispute right here. Let me read this to you.
Destruction of property is a felony.
All right. Well, let me just check. Let me read this to you real quick here. All right. It is in my strong opinion that lawful immigration is not only appropriate but essential to maintaining who we are as a nation and republic. Illegal immigration should be eliminated as much as possible. Legal immigration is unfair. Those who seek to enter this nation lawfully. For those immigrants fleeing their government in mass due to oppression, I equate that to cowardice. Okay. It says right here that. Benjamin Franklin stated that the law of nations has continually in the hands of the members of Congress, our law now sitting in the United States, that the children are bound by natural ties to the society in which they were born. They are under an obligation to shew themselves grateful for the protection it is afforded to their fathers in a great measure, indebted to those to the birth and education. They ought therefore to love it as we have already shown, to express a just gratitude to it and requite its services so far as possible by serving in turn. We have, and the son of a citizen, when it comes to the years of discretion, may examine whether it be convenient for him to join the society for which he was destined by his birth. So when you're talking about we're self-governing ourselves, John Doe, what are you talking about self-governing? I mean, what's the job of the government, you think? What is the job of our government? What are they supposed to do?
They're supposed to protect our rights and privileges as independent, self-governing, free people so we can go out and pursue our happiness as long as we do no harm to others.
Okay, what about all this government services that are going on right now? And how do we get rid of those?
Well, that's a bigger question because you got to get specific for each one, depending on what each one is. The generalized.
Well, they all got to go. They all have to go, right? They all have to go technically because that's not what the government's job to provide services, right?
I'm not sure I know what services you're referring to. I do agree with you from the general point of what I think I understand you to say, yes. But there are a certain amount of services that we don't have. We have a military and we have law enforcement for a reason. They don't all have to go.
Yeah. No, I understand that part, but Social Security, food stamps, programs, housing, your utility networks, your water departments, your waste management, stuff like that. Just take waste management, for instance. How is New York City going to cover its waste management process if the government's not involved to regulate it somehow?
Well, the point that I want to make in regards to that is you cannot do anything about it until you understand the fact that each and every one of the people that's in that jurisdictional district are an equitable, independent, self-governing, free person, and if you deny them the right to have their will mutually and reciprocally enacted, codified, and ratified, then you committed fraud against the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, wait a second. Committed fraud. Now, what about the government, though, itself as an entity? What right do the people have to usurp off the government?
Joe, we the people are the government. The daily operations of government.
We elect representatives. But we elect representatives to represent what our wants and needs are. And if the people enacted and wanted and voted into office these politicians that enacted some of these services and non-self-governing rules or programs, then therefore it's of the people's will. So therefore it's not violating their rights then, right?
No, it's not of the people's will. That's why in the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law abridging the right of the people to petition their government for redress of grievance. Article 1, Sections 9 and 10, there's no title of nobility at the federal level or the state level. Article 4, Section 2, the citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities as citizens of the several states. That right there tells you when it comes to governing, you take into consideration the very first paragraph of the Declaration of Independence, where it says, you assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle you. That makes you a free moral agent. No other human being gets to dictate burdens, encumbrances, and obligations of you, including governing. So therefore, if we don't recognize that fact that we're all here under the same umbrella with the same exclusive jurisdictional power and authority over determining our own burdens and encumbrances, then you're being manipulated by your, mind, what do they call it, Stockholm Syndrome. It's another mind scam.
Yeah.
Because one group is exercising favor over another. Just because I say I represent you because you elected me into office, but then I just ignore your redress of, petition for redress of grievance and deny you your proper standing and then deny you your due process rights. That's extrinsic fraud. It's fraudulent conversion. It's fraudulent conveyance. And nobody talks about those things.
But wait, all right. But what are you being denied that you want to redress the government with? What are you being denied?
It depends on what the issue is. For example, on January the 6th, all these people that got run into the clean, whatever you want to call it, gulag, all of them were responding to the fact that the congressmen and senators were denying them their rightful redress and making sure that the votes and all the integrity of the election was without blemish. So therefore, when the congressmen and senators ignore your plea and deny you your due process rights, they're committing extrinsic fraud and undue influence and coercion and bullying and duress on you. So therefore, they didn't argue it right in the court. They decided to go to Capitol Hill.
John Doe, hang on. I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I asked about you, though. What are you trying to redress? I want you to give me an example of what you consider a violation of what this government's doing.
Whenever they pass a law and then they deny us or me my right of redress to correct that law, so I stand equitably as my will included, enacted, codified, and ratified. Otherwise,
is there any particular law?
Master, somebody's being the slave.
Is there any particular law that they have passed in your area, in your district, that you feel that you have not been redressed or you were unable, that's oppressing you, that's violating your rights right now?
Well, just to try to keep it as simple as I possibly can, since we're talking about January 6th, the election was definitely questionable. And so, therefore, I do not have to prove that the election, that I could find any fault in the election, because we are all joint owners in unity of title, unity of time.
Hang on a second. Wait, John Doe, hang on. Time out. So, January, I agree with you. Okay, the election was in question, but wait a second. Yes, you do have to prove it. If you think the election was a fraud, then you have to show me some evidence.
No, wait. You don't understand. When you're in a business, if you're a partnership in any ownership, you are equal partners unless the contract states otherwise. In the United States, we have the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution that dictates that there's no favoritism. I just read Article 1, Sections 9 and 10, Article 4, Section 2. I mean, that didn't even get into, the 13th Amendment, no more, involuntary
You're talking about the election, John Doe. You're talking about the election. So you voted. You're saying your vote didn't count, or you say there's questions about this election, a national election. How can you – you just can't go out and say, hey, I question this, and that's fraud, and you're violating my rights. There has to be some sort of standard or process to go by.
There is a standard. There is a standard. They're withholding the information that allows you to know that it's a secure election. It's just like you running your business. When you run your business, does your employee tell you, oh, Joe, you might be a part owner in this business, but I'm not going to give you the information. You might
that's totally different. That's a business. That has nothing to do with it.
How's it different? It's still contract law. Our Constitution and Declaration of Independence are covenant contracts of agreement between we the people.
Hang on, you're mixing apples with oranges. We're talking about the election right now. What has the government
done? To mix them up.
No, I know, but let's stay with the election. Let's not talk about my business and use parallels and stuff like that. Let's stick with the election. What has the government done that you feel, as you said, they are withholding information about the election? Well, who's they? Where? When? And how? How do you know this? What are you do? What's going on here? How? Because how did they? Well, you're making an accusation here. I want to try to back it up.
Right, okay, but I do not have to prove anything other than the fact that whenever we have an election, when we have an election, every citizen has a right to know that their particular vote and all of their fellow Americans' vote, the other citizens of our country, their vote processed properly, transparently, without question.
I got you. Okay, let's bring on 234 here. Has been waiting a little while. They've been on the line. So 234, go ahead.
Hey, Joe, it's Dave from Ohio.
Hey, go ahead,
Mike,
Dave. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. I think what he's trying to say here is basically how Ted Cruz went in front of Congress and said, we want to take 10 days to investigate this election. That's basically what he's saying, that he doesn't have to prove it because as us being their constituents, when we ask them to do something and they do it, Cruz went in front of those guys and said, hey, we want 10 days to investigate this election. And they said no. They voted it down. So right there is the problem.
To take it even to another level, Paul Gosar was the representative that brought that forward first. And by the statutory, I don't know what the rule number is, he has to have a senator back him up. And that's when Ted Cruz stood up, backed him up to do that, and the rest of the people ignored him. You're right.
That's right.
Okay. So is that correct on that, Sarge? Are they correct on that, Sarge?
Well, when it comes to the Electoral Count Act, you had to have one member of the House of Representatives and one member of the Senate to lodge a formal objection to the validity of the electoral count in any state. So, it would have to be one from each chamber of Congress.
Yes, because they did it, and they actually took a vote. I think it was 338 voted nay.
No, actually, it was 149 Republicans and the House of Representatives and 8 senators who who had announced their intentions to vote no on the vote. Many of them objecting to the electoral count in various one or more states. So all together between both houses of Congress, you had like 147 members who appeared to object to the election. That was before the chamber was emptied and the House went under emergency rules that prevented that objection from being voted on the floor of the Senate and the House.
So did they change? Would they have? Because under the emergency, they didn't get to vote.
Under the emergency rules, it was different. They could only narrowly vote on certifying the vote, not on objections to it.
And that's what sucks.
Pelosi was able to invoke these emergency rules that would not have happened without what happened outside on January 6th, which really made me start to smell a rat.
That's why it was all a setup, and people were saying that there's a rat in the room here. They were set up. They provoked.
They needed a reason to engage those emergency acts in order to stop any type of investigation on the fraudulent elections. Well, exactly what they did. So they planned it all ahead.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I've always said, Joe, like when we talk with Mike and stuff, at a local level, it just almost, where I'm living at now in Akron, it's gotten so bad. They're just going to have to be drug out by their hair. That's all there's going to happen.
What's going on with that at your level? I remember you talking about that and everything. Explain it a little bit if you can, if you don't mind.
Well, city council decided, they took and went and got a bunch of petitions, and before the vote, they wanted an oversight committee for the police department. So now they were supposed to fill 11 positions. They couldn't fill 11 with their woke and it's insanity what they want for people to actually. If I can't be on the committee, let's put it that way. I'm your white domestic terrorist, so they don't want me on the committee. But these are people that are going to police. They're going to tell the police how to police, and they aren't the police and never been anything but a bunch of bums.
So they defunded the police. They defunded the police, basically.
Yes, they did. Yes, and I'm in a sanctuary city. They defunded the police. Jalen Walker was shot, I think it was 60-some times, and, it was over 100 shots fired, and I've been on several different radio stations and told them, I said, listen, you guys are missing the whole problem with this. I go, the guy ran from the cops the night before. Wolf will flee, and they shut it down so they didn't kill anybody with the pursuit at that time. They went into Summit County where we're at. So the next day, he was going to get stopped again, but he took off towards the highway, and he made it to the highway ramp, and he took 2 shots at the cops while moving, and ran. And then when he ended up getting a roadblock, he hit the roadblock, and he couldn't get out of his driver's door, so he had to go out his passenger door, and he went on foot and made a move. After now he's already shot at cops twice, and he ran from them the night before. He was in pursuit by about 8 different cruisers, and they shot him. He made a move. I mean, regardless, he's already tried to take their lives. And what people don't understand is, yeah, those are our cops missed. I mean, we got 100 shots fired, 60 of them hit him. What about the other 40, I said? There's 40 rounds that are flying around. I go, we got to get these guys to tighten up. And I was bent out of shape about it. I went nuts on that. I said, you guys, this is a criminal, period. I said, but the thing is, our law enforcement, I swear one of them didn't shoot each other in crossfire how it was going. 40 different rounds, and I'm talking in a large area, not accounted for.
Wow.
But it's just gotten so bad now that it's a sanctuary city. They want everybody to come here. They want Ukrainians. They want Afghanis. We've got the Napoleon people. The Napoleon people aren't bad. They do their thing. They just stay in their lane.
What's
Akron. Akron, Ohio. The great city of LeBron Bum James.
Akron, Ohio?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to call them on my podcast show. I'm going to call them. I don't know if you missed the call earlier on the beginning of the show. I called the senator's office there. And, they want to hand out thousands. Yeah, you would have loved it. Anyway, they want to hand out $2,000 to homeless people. And I asked them, well, how are you going to vet that? How are you going to make sure they're homeless, you know? You're just going to hand out $2,000 to people.
Where they want to do? What do you call it? San Francisco?
Yes.
I thought you called there one night.
Sacramento, actually.
Okay. Well, it doesn't matter. That place out there, if an earthquake happened and it fell into the ocean and it turned into an island, it wouldn't bother me one bit. It sank. It's a whole show out there. But so you got these homeless people. Aren't they putting those people up in like $high-dollar hotels out there even?
I'm telling you, it's like you said, it's crazy. But they defunded your police department. I thought we can't trust anything anymore in the media. The media just can't. I mean, where is the truth out there reporting? I mean, it's insane. Well, in San Francisco, they got undocumented illegal immigrants becoming police officers.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're down there on the border and you live down there, God help you, because I still to this day don't understand, after all the times we talked with like Eric and all those guys from Texas and all this stuff that's going on, how so many of these people that live so close to the border have tolerated this shit for so long that, I mean, you're talking about children's underwear in the trees. They know they're getting raped, the trafficking. How do they let it continue? Me living in Akron, I want to go down there and shoot them.
I know what's going on. What's going on? I mean, what's going on with that? You're absolutely right. How are people on the border? But then again, we don't know. We're not there. We don't know, and you can't. And where do you get your information from? You know, the TV. We know you can't get the truth from there.
There's many different little outlets on, through BitChute. That's the only thing I can find. Anything reasonable is on BitChute. Just searching and searching, but you spend more time searching than they talk on the actual item they're covering. But I mean, regardless, when you have 1,000 Chinese illegal immigrants waiting to come across this border, and they know about it, how many of them got through already? They were talking about 4,500 arrests a day.
They stormed it.
That's what I'm saying. Storm what? Why don't they shoot them? I don't think the sheriff's not doing their thing. We hoped for, and we thought that was going to be the ones to turn to, because I just haven't heard nothing about sheriffs. It just seems like everything's going more like you got to just follow their scenario and just blend in and be quiet and deal with it. Bullshit.
I just don't understand
I got a question. I know that this is breast cancer awareness month, and they use pink ribbons, correct?
Yes.
Okay. A friend of mine had me pick his son up from school today, and I don't know if his son knew I was going to be the one picking him up, and he's only in 7th grade. Now, standing outside front of a school, there's a bunch of kids, and there's one guy with a pink cowboy hat on. Who guess I got to pick up? I swear to God, I called his dad, and I said, listen, what is that? Are you trying to get me in some kind of shit show or trouble that's going on here? I go, I don't understand what this is about. Nobody else got nothing on. And I'm thinking, well, he told me when he got in the truck that it was breast cancer awareness month. And I said, well, why didn't they give you a ribbon? Why did they give you a pink cowboy hat? Because one girl's mom brought him in and gave him. This lady came into the school and gave people cowboy hats, boys. Now, is that not trying to push an agenda?
That sounds a little odd. That sounds a little bit odd.
The ribbon. I understand the ribbon. Yes, everybody should have a pink ribbon. I'm 100% for that. Not little boys with pink cowboy hats. And not all of them got them. Like a select few. And his son might be questionable on a little bit of he's not a football player. He might play a lot more tic-tac-toe. Let's just call it that. But he's a good kid. I try to help him out as best I can, boxing and stuff, but he just don't have that in him. But I'm just thinking, what is an adult bringing pink cowboy hats to a school? And my mom always told the mothers in the classroom, if you don't have enough for all the kids in the classroom, don't bring 10. If there's 50 kids, you got to bring 50 things. But nobody. He's the only one that I'm about to say, holy shit, gotta go. But
I'm wondering if
the indoctrination of the children is what's killing me. I can't. That's more than anything. These kids. We've lost a generation, 100%. And I told a guy the other night on WNIR, that's a good talk show if you guys ever get a chance to listen to it at 100.1 FM. And it's WNIR. And they got a website. You can log on and listen to it from wherever, all over the world. But that's here local in Akron. So you want to hear the shit show, that's what you call and listen to. Or you can call in and talk to. Bob Cole, former WNIR, yeah. Yeah, and they're supposedly the number one live talk show in America. Bob Goley from the Cleveland Browns is the second shift guy from 4 to 7. But it's pretty good.
I'm going to check it out.
I tell these people, if you think Joe Biden's bad and all these clowns and this Khazarian cult, satanic pedophile running show that's going on now, what do you think you're putting in place in another 25 years with these kids that you keep telling it's okay to fly a rainbow flag, go to the back of the classroom and piss in a litter box and call yourself a cat? Change your gender day to day. You think Joe Biden's bad because he sniffs hair? Wait till these kids come of age with the indoctrination that they're getting, and it's going to be 50 times worse. They can have their cake and eat it too. I'm sorry. It's not going to be good.
Let me bring on 323 from back on here. 323, go ahead.
All right, go.
Hey, Joe, I just want to say thanks for allowing me to interrupt your show. And I'll be looking forward to downloading it to find out how you did with grilling those senators. So I just wanted to say that because I didn't want to interrupt Mike because Mike will he'll get all upset, if I interrupt for longer than 2 seconds. You know how Mike is. I'm only teasing Mike.
No, this isn't Mike.
Mike.
No, this isn't Mike. He thinks this is your Mike. No, this is another caller. Joe.
No, I like Mike, but hey, whoa, back it down.
Oh, it's another caller. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, but Mike's a good guy. He put together a little something I wish would have went a lot farther, but it just seemed like it's hit a brick wall. But it seems like that brick walls went all the way around everything as far as judicial-wise going on and trying to get this country straightened out.
Why did it fizzle out? What, in your opinion, why did it fizzle out? I mean, I know he's trying to justify
because everybody's
it and
scared to go to jail. Believe it or not, Joe, I think everybody's scared to go to jail because they haven't been put in a corner. They haven't been the most dangerous animal in the world. What do you call that thing? Not a
rat in the corner. Rat which is cornered.
Mad Hatter, yeah. Back something like that into a corner, and when it's got to fend for itself to either feed or survive, we're not there yet because people don't see that happening to them. But we know
it's not going to happen.
Savages, we know that's coming. It's coming.
But people aren't seeing it because that's the part of the plan. They've been doing this incrementally ever since 1913. That's the wise way to go. It's boiling the frog syndrome. So people can see it coming, like you're talking about. But since it hasn't happened to them yet, then it's old news. It's yesterday's news.
In this media control, if people could actually see what goes on in Australia, Africa, or even what's happened in Europe, because you have rabbis legitimately, I've got videos of them talking about saying Europe has been barbecued. They're done. They've infiltrated and overrun that population and have mixed it all up, and it's going to be a loss. If you're an Irishman or whatever, a Frenchman in that area, and that's where the population's dominated by your ethnicity. I can't say it word fast. You're a minority there now.
Hey guys, I'd like to remind you of a time when this country was confident enough to do something about what needed to be done when this country was invaded by a cross-border raid from Mexico by a guy named Pancho Villa, and how this country responded. They when Ballistas attacked, they killed more than 100 of them, and then a major asked his commanding officer permission to go in hot pursuit back across the border. It was granted. He went after them, shot it out with a whole bunch of them, killed a whole bunch more, and was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross. A guy named Major Frank Tompkins.
Hey, Sarge, you want to hear another? Let me run one by you for this. Here comes a Jew that goes into Georgia and actually accuses a black guy of raping a little girl. And another said a woman that had seen something happen, she was accused or tried to get killed. Well, here Leo Frank takes off because the governor of Georgia what do you call it when you get pardons this jerk after he's been found guilty of murdering a little girl, rape, all of it. He takes off to New York. Well, what do the Georgians do? They go up and they get him, and they put him in a tree, and they make a statement. And it has to start happening on every level like that, because if it doesn't, it's going to get worse. And it's going to get worse before it gets better.
It's about as bad as it can get. We got a president that's determined to enable it. He's the biggest human trafficker in history, and they just indicted this bogus international criminal court, just indicted Vladimir Putin for it. And the biggest human trafficker staring right in the face, that's Joe Putin. He's an accessory to human trafficking all up and down the border. And by the way, this Major Frank Thompson, when he went down into Mexico chasing after him, they think he killed between 75 and 100 Mexicans on Mexican soil. They were going to give him the Medal of Honor, but decided they didn't want that much publicity about it, so they cut it back to the Distinguished Service Cross. And then they killed another 85 up in Columbus, Texas, when they went in there and killed some civilians and soldiers, and it was the soldiers and the civilians who repelled the Villistas.
You know what, Sarge? I'll tell you right now. Those people are so far and few between, but yet there's so many of us that just haven't had to do it yet. And I'm telling you right now, mark my words, there's going to be something bad that's going to set it off. And a lot of people don't understand how bad it really is because they don't see what's happening currently, like in Europe and Africa and Australia. They don't have any history. They want to take all the history away from everybody. You can't survive the future if you don't know what your history and who you are from the past. You can't do it. You can't do it.
Yeah, we're witnessing an unprecedented invasion of the United States, and they're telling us, no, we're not actually being invaded. It's just people seeking a refuge and lawful sanctuary in our country. Yeah, 5 million people with lawful sanctuary claims. This is beyond belief, and they're just gaslighting us every damn day.
You know, and a lot of people don't realize, and I know exactly when I started hearing that about Putin being charged with moving kids around. People, if they, I don't know if I saw it on BitChute, Google, or what, but somebody, I want to say it was Nino Rodriguez, he's a boxer that has a podcast. I think he brought it up that Putin, at the very beginning, and I'm talking within the first 10 days of everything that he had moved on to do, brought buses and offered all the elderly, the sick, and the children free passage into Russia. He was giving 10,000 rubles to each one of them and putting them up in hotels so they weren't going to be killed. And it wasn't by him, by the Azov Battalion, the Nazis that our American government wants to fund and go over there and support Nuland and all them. They're all going to Ukraine, I hope, at one time, and I hope they leave us enough shit over here like they left in Afghanistan, because I'll be the first one to get in a plane and level the place and turn it all into a damn airport. Boom. That's the whole story going on with these people.
It's bad. It's going to be a reckoning if something isn't done to straighten this out. The American people are starting to wake up to what's going on the border. I mean, Vladimir Putin only sent 190,000 troops in the Ukraine initially. We've had, like I said, since this guy's been in office, this potato head has been in office, we've had, 3.5, 4.5 million processed by the Border Patrol and Customs. Processed. That's not counting the ones who got away. It's got to be like 5 million, 5.5 million.
And we're only talking about the southern border. They're not discussing the northern border as much, although now there's a lot of stuff going on up there. But hey, you got Trudeau, you got Biden, and you got, I forget his name, in Mexico, where they signed this, I think it's called something, North American Treaty type deal, where basically the United States it doesn't exist, according to these three jerk-offs, because they're going to have their own thing. They've got it all laid out. It's under Noahide laws, and they're going to provide open borders to run rampant through Canada, United States, and South America. And Trudeau, oh, man, I don't even – you can't even make this shit up. So you got the Chinese up there doing drills, last year, 80,000 of them. Trudeau lets in to do cold weather drills. You mean tell me somewhere in China ain't cold enough to do cold weather drills? Get the hell out of here. Why didn't somebody – they don't even let them – they don't shoot down the balloons coming out of over there this way because they're all in bed with them. There's a song by Pantera, and it's called 5 Minutes Alone. That's all I want with Biden and his kid. 5 minutes.
Well, look. The problem is that there's a bit of a stirring going on, looking into Joe Biden with the congressional inquiries. I mean, the revelations about these 152 suspicious activity reports from the Treasury Department that the Treasury Department didn't want to let Congress see, and they're letting the American people know what's on them. The amount of money that was transferred from these entities in association with the Chinese Communist Party to members of the Biden family is staggering alone. And that's just the first one they've released information on. They're saying they've got 13 of these money transfers from the Chinese communists and other people with adversarial interests against the United States and the Biden family. It's just beyond belief that we're even counting this for a microsecond.
And Biden's dead son, his ex or his widowed wife, the one that Hunter was banging, she's one of them that's getting the money from him. How about that?
The corruption is, but no, they got to go after Donald Trump for a 7-year-old non-disclosure agreement that's beyond the statute of limitations that this sumbitch Alvin Bragg, this low-down legal slug, this no-good, this guy is gain of functioning what would be at best, with the best of evidence, a misdemeanor into a mutated state federal hybrid prosecution for which he's got no legal basis whatsoever. It is beyond belief, man. Beyond belief. But here we are.
1913.
I mean, here we are. And Joe Biden has been getting away with murder for decades. He's been selling out this country to foreign interests. Like I said, look, Joe Biden is hollow, man. He's got no soul. He's got no real belief system because he's changed his beliefs on everything he believed 20 or 30 years ago. He's completely about-faced it with no explanations. All he's interested in is who's going to let him keep the grift going. But the people around him who pull his strings like a little puppet that he is, those people are dedicated neo-Marxist ideologues, and they have a plan to fundamentally transform the United States of America. You better believe that.
And Sarge, I'm going to tell you right now, who's the sickest one of them all, because if he is who he is still, if that's Joe Biden in real person, and he has his mind ain't right, because my mother died from dementia, I know how that affects somebody. If that is him, his wife and his close family are single-handedly the most evil people because they're letting that guy suffer. They should pull him away from that podium, let him live the backside of the last days of his life, and it somehow, I don't know if it could be decent if you could call it that, but in another scenario other than sitting there waiting for him to die so that they can hold that power, because all of them are so corrupt it's unbelievable that the American people just haven't gone and thought that was an insurrection on January 6th. Your ass hurts. So I'm going to tell you what, the next insurrection, if they do have something go down, there will be a show going on. CNN might not want to be there to get involved with it because they'll get their asses kicked too.
Yeah, that doesn't qualify as any insurrection that I know about, because I guarantee you, there's no way I'd plan no insurrection like that.
Well, I'll wrap it up with this one there. I could play 3 minutes of this, but thanks for the calls there tonight, guys. We're in overtime now, so we'll play this here at the end.
All right, Joe.
During the American Revolution, the active forces in the field against the king's tyranny never amounted to more than 3% of the colonists. They were in turn actively supported by perhaps 10% of the population. In addition to these revolutionaries were perhaps another 20% who favored their cause but did little to nothing to support it. Another one-third of the population sided with the king. By the end of the war, there were actually more Americans fighting for the king than there were in the field against him. And the final third, they took no side and blew with the wind and took what came. 3%ers today do not claim that we represent 3% of the American people, although we might. That theory has not yet been tested. We do claim that we represent at least 3% of American gun owners, which is still a healthy number, somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 million people. History, for good or ill, is made by determined minorities. We are one such minority. So too are the current enemies of the Founders' Republic. What remains, then, is the test of will and skill to determine who will shape the future of our nation. The 3% today are gun owners who will not disarm, will not compromise, and will no longer back up at the passage of the next Gun Control Act. 3%ers today say quite explicitly that we will not obey any further circumscription of our traditional liberties and will defend ourselves if attacked. We intend to maintain our God-given natural rights to liberty and property, and that means most especially the right to keep and bear arms. Thus, we are committed to the restoration of the Founders' Republic and are willing to fight, die, and if forced by any would-be oppressor, to kill in the defense of ourselves and the Constitution that we took an oath to uphold against enemies foreign and domestic. We are the people that the collectivists who now control the government should leave alone if they wish to continue unfettered oxygen consumption. We are the 3%. Attempt to further oppress us at your peril. To be bluntly, leave us the hell alone. Or, if you feel froggy, go ahead and watch what happens.
All right, everybody. A good show here tonight. I guess that'll wrap it up. We're on overtime now, so that's going to cut us out anyway. I guess, Sarge, you still there, Sarge? I don't know if you want any final words.
Yes, sir, I am.
Yeah, we're still on. It's an overtime there. Everybody wants to have any final thoughts. Yeah, John Doe, you too. So we go down the line here. John Doe, you go first because you're long-winded. Go ahead.
Well, it's very important that we get long-winded when apparently we're going to be destroyed for lack of knowledge. We have to spend time to understand why God gifted people like, George Washington and others in his day with the knowledge and wisdom and information that they brought forth to the people, and the other people had to recognize that. Otherwise, they would have run roughshod over George Washington and all of our founding freedom fighters, and we would have never had an America. So thank you for the time. May we all wake up and understand how to realize the true knowledge and wisdom coming from each people so we can apply it to overcome this without bloodshed. Otherwise, we are going to have bloodshed because ignorance breeds ignorance and violence begets violence. Thank you, Joe. Back to you.
All right, go ahead, Sarge.
Yeah, I got to pretty much echo the comments of John Doe, and I'd just like to add that eternal vigilance is the price of liberty, and you got to inform yourself as much as possible and be prepared to act appropriately when and if the balloon goes up, because these forces that are trying to transmogrify this country are like something I don't think I have ever beheld in the history of the United States, and I am including the war between the states.
Amen. Joe, you still there, Joe? You want anything you want to add here? Plug your new show, maybe? Joe, you still there? I don't know if Joe's there or not. Dave, I guess you get the last word then.
All righty. Well, I'd just like to say this to everybody that has dignity, morals, compassion for American souls, children, and everybody that's died for this country. You have to remember one thing. Yesterday's gone. We can't do anything about it. Tomorrow is not promised. It's not here. It may never come. We have to live today for today. Today is the last day for almost millions of people. Every day that die, just die. But we have to realize we have to fight for something, or everything is going to be taken from us. And the time that happens may be too late. Just pay attention, people. Get some research and get the best knowledge you can. And God bless America.
Dave, you said something earlier. You said everybody was scared to go to jail, you think. That's what it was. So So what are you saying? That everybody's just off now doing their little private thing, and there's no unity, that this is just a dead movement?
Well, I believe there's unity, but as far as the label of domestic terrorism, and as the DOJ weaponized as fast and abruptly as it happened, it's almost they know they're going to go to jail. You know what I'm saying? It's almost, you look at January 6th, and that wasn't anything, but you have groups of people that, like myself, I'm surprised I haven't been approached, but if they come, hey, stand outside and talk to yourselves, because I'm not coming out. You're going to have to come in and get me. But I just really think that it's too much of the
bottom line, you guys, is this: is the only way is to get them is at the ballot box, and that's the only way. It's a peaceful way of restoring the republic, not filing lawsuits, not by filing any paperwork, by us all converging on election day. And when the people are elected, when they're in power, take advantage of that power. You know, and take advantage of it.
Joe, there's one thing I got to say about that. If another election goes south in 24, America will be completely destroyed. Now, I don't believe there's Republicans and Democrats in this country anymore whatsoever. I believe there's two parties, traitors and patriots. Draw the line in the sand and get on your side.
Yeah. But the people that are elected, like, for instance, if I get elected down here locally, you know, as the nullification powers of a state lawmaker to introduce, nullify the statutes and codes that are on, we can restore the republic. You know, if the governor doesn't want to go, if the governor breaks the law, he's not above the law. He could be arrested too. You know,
That's right.
as long as we got people around the country that are willing to stand up, you know, we can mobilize armies of people, lawful citizens, if we to cast their votes. Everything can be done at the ballot box. It can be done.
If you look at the map of the layout of the general choices made by party, I would think that they've already started an infiltration where they had mixed up enough people that where there was a conglomerate of one people can't go do what you're talking about because of the reason they have been washed out like they did Europe.
Well, look, I'm here in North Carolina. I need people helping me out in my community. Listen, everybody will spend $200 on a cell phone bill, but they won't send $50 to help me buy a campaign time, you know, or ad time on the radio or something, you know. I mean, nobody will come, you know, there are donors out there. But look, we have got to put our little pennies and our $100 bills together and elect grassroots people that are, you know, and because once you're in there. I mean, and if you do the right thing, there's no reason why you can't remain in there.
And where are you at in North Carolina? Because I'm thinking about moving to either Culberson or Cherokee.
I'm in Rockingham County near Guilford County, Greensboro area, High Point, Winston-Salem.
I know right where you're at. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, you might have a new neighbor come in the next 3 months, buddy. So
well, I need as many patriots as I can. I mean, we did the Constitution parties here, in North Carolina. We had a meeting last night, but it's 20 of us got online. But you know what? Hey, look, we got to listen. People are out there. You know how many unaffiliated voters are in my district that are not Republican, not Democrat? They're just in the middle because they don't know who to vote for. Over 55% of the voters in my district are unaffiliated. You can win. You can win any election. It's just you got to have money though.
And with seeing that, if you know those numbers are pretty much accurate, to think of the influence of media right there with what you just said, and then you take something like Twitter or Facebook, like these guys were using the government using it to influence elections. If what you just said is correct, more than half of the people rely on information that's wrong, and that's why they get voted in.
And if we keep using the government like king of the hill, and once you get in, you exercise that bully power, then all you're asking for is a continued butt kicking, because no different faction, whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, or whatnot, likes people bullying them. So we got to stop this king of the hill mentality that once you get into office, you get to bully people. That's the problem. We've got to
we got to erase
the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution.
Yeah, but John Doe, we have to be careful though, not to be nitpicking. Listen, you know what I mean? Listen, if we had somebody good in there that can erase the codes and statutes and all this crap that's going on, and our money that's infiltrated by the offshore cartel Federal Reserve, if we could come up with a better plan like Ron Paul had, listen, we don't need to be nitpicking at them. You know what I mean? And cross-referencing everything that somebody does.
Joe, force begets force. If you're going to use the government as a weapon, then I have the right to use a weapon to reclaim my private property.
But you won't have any property because the New World Order is going to take it from you. So you got to go with, I know there's no deals with the devil, but you got to listen to what I'm saying. Anyone who's preaching liberty and freedom, you got to go with them. You got to stick by them. You got to make sacrifices. Not everybody's going to agree 100% of the time. It's just impossible. How many people disagree with George Washington
right now? If you think that these people, look how many people you brought up earlier about the jobs. What about people in doing the waste removal and whatnot? How many people are employed by the government that if we actually went back to the way things went smoothly with almost minimal laws and hardly nobody, you didn't have to go down and work 40-hour weeks at the city hall because that's your job. No, you went down there on your own time in the evening for a couple hours or whatever, and it was minimalized. What about that? That's what needs to happen. We need to take all those people out, remove them from all the garbage that's been stacked on top of stack, and putting pig or mascara on a pig or eyelashes on a raccoon ain't going to cut it. They got to get rid of them all. But what happens into society when you flood the market with all those people? All those people. That's a lot of people that are employed by the government, and that's why it continues like it does, because my brother needs a job. My cousin needs a job. My uncle needs a job. Okay.
I got a mortgage.
We need to make
I got a mortgage. I got a car payment. Yep.
That's right.
You got to be careful. You got to be
careful.
careful.
Build more prisons because we got to put more people in jail that break more laws that we got to write.
Yeah. Why can't we all enjoy the freedom and benefits of freedom and creativity together? I don't see why. Why do we have to be trapped in this barter system of the Federal Reserve? Why? I just don't understand. This capitalistic by imperialism.
People,
I just don't understand it.
I've had everything in the world, Joe. I've had a beautiful home. Well, she was a crazy wife, but I've had cars, boats, everything, money. I didn't have anything to worry about, and then it all got taken away from me, down to nothing. And I'm going to tell you what: to be humble to not have anything, to know what you could have, that's what everybody needs in this country. They need to be humbled so that they know that they don't need all this garbage and the fake things, because that's what is driving everybody. It's the indoctrination of money among people from, like they were saying in 1913, when they knew that they could put the hand on the banking system and print the money. You just indoctrinated everybody that was involved that gets paid, because now they want paid and they want more and they're going to print more. It's just an ongoing thing. We got to pull the plug on somehow.
Yeah, I agree. They're going to cut me off.
Everybody's trying to protect their own private property of self-governing. And that's why I'm saying if you get into government, and then you use it like a bully pulpit and don't respect the fact that everybody has their right to determine their own pursuit of happiness and encumbrances and obligations of governing, then you end up continuing to just fight with violence. And then, therefore, we all have a right to use violence if we have to protect ourselves and to reclaim our private property of self-governing.
Yeah, but what's private property when you think about it? Doesn't it all belong to God anyway, the Creator? I mean, why do we?
I own my house. Hey, I own my house, but then they tell me, no, you don't own your house because it sits on a lot. It sits on a parcel that you have to pay your property taxes to, and if you don't pay those property taxes, they come take your house.
That's right. Yeah, that's true.
Well, you have intellectual property, too, the self-determination of deciding your own burdens and encumbrances. Otherwise, if I get to decide the burdens and encumbrances and pass a law and make you obligated to it, you are no longer a self-governing person. You become my legislative slave. Intellectual property is property, too.
Yep, that's true. That's 100% true.
Yeah, but where do you draw the line, though? You don't get to go off and run around doing whatever you want. You know, you can't offend somebody.
You got to be held accountable.
The Declaration of Independence states that you get to pursue your pursuit of happiness as long as you do no harm to others. You do not encroach on their freedoms and liberties. When you cross over the line, encroach on others and harm them, injure them, then they get to.
Yeah, we got that, but who makes that determination then? Who draws the line? Like, for instance, I say what you're doing harms me. Who says, well, I agree with you, Joe? You know what I mean?
Well, you can have freedom of speech. I think you can say anything. You can say anything you want, but when it gets to the point where it becomes a physicality or you're actually impeding actual something happening for somebody, then you got problems. That's what I think. That's where that's at. You can say whatever you want, but when you physically hurt somebody, that's when you need to be held accountable. And that's the main thing. All these people, everybody needs to be held accountable for everything.
Well, then denying you have your will enacted, codified, and ratified is a harm to you. That makes you a legislative slave. So now you're burdened to take the shot, whether you want to take the shot or not, because you've allowed them the power to dictate to you as they're your master and you're their legislative slave.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, what are they going to do about the banking? Look at the banks. I mean, all the banks are going to be closed. I mean, do people realize that there's actually, if you don't have cash, even then, our dollar bill, you can wipe your ass with it, and it's not worth anything. It's almost like it was back in, the Southern money. It's insane. But what are they going to do when the lights go out? You think there's going to be civil unrest then?
Yeah, and everybody's going to be looking to 911 for help.
And they could be praying to God, too. But I'm going to tell you what, I've never seen him yet, and I've prayed to him a lot of times. I hope he's real, because if he's not, we're all in a world of shit. I just hope there's something good that comes of all this, and I hope that it's God testing us that this is the ragged edge and it's got to come to an end. I don't believe in end times at all. I believe it's just the end of a cycle of just like a Bach tune from the Mayans. It's just another period of time that's going to come in. Pisces is coming, and I think that we just need, as Americans, we need to make America America again. If you don't like America, get out. Get off the soil. If you're not born here, get the hell out of here. That's it. Round them up, get them gone.
Yeah. All right, everybody. You're going to cut me off any second anyway, so I might as well end it now. Hey, thanks for calling in, everybody. Good show tonight. God bless. Take care.
All right, Joe. You too, bud.